it up.
Yeah, indeed. And one champion I don't think will be available for Gamers2 or Origen to kind of tighten up the hinges on this one is going to be Kalista. I was 1 second away from saying Kalista and they ban it. When Niels gets an 18 KDA, you ain't getting Kalista in the next day.
Yeah, Kalista has been banned every single game. No one wants to play against that one anymore. But yeah, Kalista comes out, Azir aimed towards Ica, or even Smitty J in the top lane, and our bans are gone. But once again, yeah.
We saw an Azir, and then I believe it was a Cassiopeia that was on the side of Origen, I believe, banned it out.
Yes.
My observation skills.
10 out of 10.
They were about there or thereabouts. But you know, if I could have put money on Kalista not being available,
but you have to make bets
done that
before they happen.
Exactly.
You can't just be like, yeah, I think Kalista's going to happen because I see it right there. Give me the money.
I don't think you're allowed to do that one. Yeah, I didn't do that. But that tells you so much. And I was actually speaking to Niels about Kalista this morning because I was like, hey man, great game last night. Did a great job. And he was saying that he wouldn't always pick Kalista. Is a very interesting thing that he was saying, and that doesn't exactly show too much at all. No. As long as you don't can completely spoil everything, but it's certainly not like a first pick champion for him. It's does this situation fit what we want? Whereas that contrasts very highly with North America. Anybody who's been watching North American LCS, you should be aware that Kalista over there is having such a good time. Everybody's like, yeah, just pick me Kalista. I'll play it into anything. It's going to be great. Over here in Europe, haven't really seen that effect too much, and that's a very interesting dynamic that a lot of the time in LCS. A lot of the meta is the same. They haven't taken our Nidalee, we haven't taken their Kalista yet. So that's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, at least with Nidalee, I think we'll be seeing less of that as we head into 5.3. We are currently on the 5.2 patch, but yeah, I believe it was Sneaky was playing a whole bunch of that in NA. He was the first one to do it, and they would like ban it straight up against him. But either way, Cassiopeia, Morgana, and Zed. And then Kassadin will be the rounding out the bans here. A whole lot of them as we come out here.
Everything is going super fast. So let's sum up briefly what has happened here. Ahri, very strong on 5.2, has been picked up. Ica, you have to expect that anybody's going to play Ahri. Over on the other side, we're seeing the Nidalee jungle. We haven't seen that yet too much in Challenger. It was actually, I believe, banned away in yesterday's game. Yeah, Origen actually were the team to ban that yesterday in Game 1 against Gamers2. And Gamers2 led it all the way through along with that Lissandra pickup. So there is so much on the table in terms of power here for Origen that is so much kill potential very early in the game. Nidalee, you land one spear or you jump in, get that hunted. On top of the Lissandra, stuns, damage, roots, everything. Mobility and magic damage is so far in favor of OG right now.
Yeah, that is for sure, with that Lissandra coming in as well, and another response from Gamers2. Took a little bit longer with this one. Comes in with the Elise again coming into this. We saw that last game, of course, and then into this one with the Lulu. So they'll be looking to try and combo those together. Lots of mobility as well, the Whimsy, and then the Repel coming up, and of course, the extra movement speed from Ahri and those Spirit Rushes. Yeah,
mobility all around the board. Keep in mind that Lulu still could be a flex pick. Could be the top lane. We've seen, Elements have been playing Lulu top a fair amount with a fairly passive style. It's not really a playmaking top laner at all. So the question is, do OG react to Lulu being a support? Do they just kind of guess? Do they not pick something aggressive? Top lane Nara is available, Aurelia is available, Maokai. So much still there for that top lane.
Yeah, and yesterday we saw a lot of emphasis onto the Nara as well, which is still available, but hasn't been picked up. And that was actually first picked by Origen, so they're going in a completely different direction this time around, and actually will be locking in the Corki and also the Annie again. So we saw that last game didn't win, but we'll be seeing it again in this game.
Whole lot of burst potential in this comp again. Lissandra, Nidalee, Corki, Annie, just everything is going to want to just blow somebody up in this matchup. That's going to be potentially a tough bottom lane matchup here as well, depending on who Gamers2 want to put in that bottom lane for Jeebus. We haven't really seen too much from Niels on Corki. But, I'm pretty sure, I think he played it once in the qualifiers, and those were the games that we weren't too sure on Niels. He hasn't got his Kalista this game around, so maybe we'll see whether he can carry on a different champion.
Yeah, that is for certain. But we do have a interesting pick here. It hasn't actually been locked in, so I'm not going to talk about it. But, yeah, we actually saw Lissandra, Annie, and Kalista, but of course Kalista was actually taken away. So, yeah, it's this is definitely a different composition coming out from Origen, at least, as we look down the board. And now with that Nidalee, we haven't seen it, as you mentioned before, in Challenger very much. Seen a lot of bans against it, but even in the games where she's not banned out, they still
Interesting. Okay, so Gamers2 lock in that Ezreal, and alongside it, pick up the Kennen. Now that's a champion that we've seen out of SK quite a lot. The Copenhagen Wolves, I believe, have been playing it as well. And certainly the Kennen in the top lane is becoming a little bit more difficult to deal with, but this isn't a decided matchup. That Lissandra is still a flex pick, and it could still be swapped around to a mid lane, and then you pick up somebody who maybe can last through a lot of Kennen's damage and a lot of Kennen's presence. I mean, you could just turn it somewhat into a bit of a farm lane and pick just somebody that doesn't really die very hard. I mean, you could pick something like a Maokai, a Mundo, something that is just a frontline champion here for Origen. And if you want frontline, there's one other champion that is pretty good at that. And if they lock this in, I mean, I haven't really seen too much out of Soaz on Sion, but it could be a good option for them.
I mean, Nars also open as well, and he will also work in the frontline role. But they actually look to prefer maybe the Sion. Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they're going to lock it.
Okay, so
So while I normally would quite like this Sion here, and I still do to some extent, it will provide that front line, provide the engage. With Sion's such limited damage, it can kind of fall off late game with damage in your composition, so they really need Amazing to get a lot of kills. They need Peke to get a lot of kills because they're running a Corki. They're not running a hyper carry, something like a Jinx, something like, you know, a Vayne, which we don't see too much, but alongside a Sion, certainly you need that added damage to it. So interesting that Origen would opt for the Sion, but he is going to get very tanky and will not die very easily to Gamers2.
Yeah, and Gamers2 have a very interesting composition. They have the Kennen, but they also have the Lulu as well, and a speed up. So again, that Kennen's going to come at you at 1,000,000 miles an hour, start ulting, and then as well with the Lulu coming in. And Kennen hasn't had the change yet to his ultimate yet, the Slicing Maelstrom, where he stuns everyone who's around it. I think that's 5.3.
We're having a patch note pop quiz at the moment, but one thing
get the answer?
One thing you can certainly say about that game is just that Sion is going to become pretty tanky in that matchup.
Oh yeah, I mean that's for certain. But as we load into the game, remember to cast your vote for who you think will win this match over at lolesports.com, and we'll check the results as we progress through this game.
And I want to go back to that Sion point a little bit, because Sion is kind of a weird indicator, because obviously with Sion you can do that level 1 strategy where you die to a camp, you get level 2, you teleport to lane. Sion is a fairly good, or a very good 2v1 laner, so it could potentially indicate that Origen are looking to lane swap or deny a lane swap, because Kennen, a lot more squishy, a little bit easier to dive. You can't really get him stunning anybody all that easy.
Well, here we go, Stress. We're heading into the last game we have today, and it's the biggest one that we have, maybe for the next couple of weeks. Gamers2 versus Origen. These two teams touted as probably the two top teams out of the 6 that we have in the EU Challenger Series, and they're going head-to-head in Week 1.
What I will say, though, is if you've been watching any of the other games today, you should know that competition is a little bit closer than it has been expected. The likes of LowLandLions already firing back to their critics very early on, so certainly this is the biggest matchup of our day today, but perhaps we'll see a new contender arise, and Origen and Gamers2 may not be so cut and dry for their first spot.
Yeah, just like LowLandLions, they've already gone 2-0 in their first week, and they could absolutely contest the top spots now for Gamers2 and Origen. They've looked super good, and in the coming weeks, I'll be excited to see how they do against some of the other teams. But talking on topic about these guys, Origen sitting into this jungle, looking to maybe get something done in the early game. Did he get seen out by a ward as Peke was moving off to the side? No, he did not.
So one of the important things here is not only are they looking to invade and potentially catch someone out, that doesn't happen all that often. Mithy is going to go on ward here, and that is a very crucial part of this strategy. Is if they are looking to 2v1, they need to know what lane they are avoiding. And Gamers2 have got their own. They know it was happening. They got a ping down on the ward that Mithy placed. So now it's kind of a guessing game. Do Origen hold themselves in this position and hope that Gamers2 just kind of expect them to swap back? Or do they mind game them and look for the inverted lanes, where they'd put Psy on top to anticipate the lane swap?
Oh, that's very complicated,
It is.
Stress, and
Mind games.
My small mind definitely did not get it, but hopefully
Mind
these
games.
teams will be able to figure this one out for themselves. Top lane, they will have Niels and Miffy, and of course, Soaz just doing the level 1 strat, will be going on to these Merc Wolves, then executing, then going into his passive, killing the Merc Wolves, and then able to get up to the top lane again.
Speaking of complicated, I'm going to use a strat or I start the game and die. Oh, yeah. That's what Soaz is saying right now, because here he goes, back from the dead. Look at those fists just pounding away.
Got him.
Yeah,
Level 2.
Got him. Level 2 indeed. And say hello to George on your way off the map there.
Good
as
strategy
well.
in game, bad for your fancy points.
Gamers2 are firing back with a blue invade of their own. They know that they've got that position on the bottom side of the map with their bot lane down there. Smitty J is going to take some of this experience, so it might not work out quite as badly. The question here is, where do the supports go? That's always the kind of the game here on these lane swaps. And actually, Soaz does not teleport down to the bottom lane. This is potentially a very good read out of Soaz. And the fact of the matter is, if he teleports here and they dive him, he gets very far behind very early on, very squishy. But at this point, he just walks into the lane, sees how far the wave is back in the lane, and is going to be able to get some experience.
Yeah, and he was on his way to the top lane, so that may answer one question of where at least one of the supports is going. He'll be heading up there with Smitty J to duo lane alongside him. And Miffy did decide to go back very early here and move towards the middle lane.
So one of the problems with Hiva actually backing away and being elsewhere on the map is they can't zone Soaz completely away from the farm. That Roar of the Slayer is going to allow Sion to farm up fairly well, and a bit of a support fight in the jungle over a pink ward. Miffy's got to be careful here.
Yeah, the exhaust comes out, and Xpeki and Ica turn up. The big boys have arrived, and Gillis comes in from the bot side as well. He'll get the stun down right onto the backside of Miffy.
Oh, they got him!
Niels is coming into the fight. First blood goes to Peke. That's a spear onto the backside of Gillis as he tries to get away. They should be able to chase after this. Nice juke out the way of the charm as they're retreating. Ica's now fully out of mana, but that was a nice early pickup. That got very messy over just a ward.
It did indeed. Like, Hiva's just pushing into the enemy jungle to be like, I'm going to try and kill your pink ward at 4 minutes into the game. Super risky. If he is not in that position, that doesn't go that way. And now there's just a jungle invade. Oh, Soaz in the bottom
done
lane.
by Gilly. It's right over the wall. Jeebus will be keeping up the assault. And he does charge up the decimating smash, but now he's into his passive. Jeebus doesn't have a way out of this. He'll have to flash away. Soaz is coming after him. Big scary man comes down.
But let's take a look at how things are playing out here, because at this point, Soaz has picked himself up some farm. Just in case you missed the very beginning of the game, it isn't 2 kills in favor of Gamers2. It was that suicide strat at level 1 on Soaz. So he can teleport back to lane should he choose to. Actually doesn't, because of, I guess he just doesn't want to spend a long time down there while his wave's pushing away from him. But now with the support up in the top lane, Soaz still gets farm, but there's an engage in the top lane as well.
Hiva, that spear takes him out. Spear, down goes Hiva. And Smitty trying to do some damage in return, but he's not got a whole lot. Look at that vote stress.
Man,
95% to Origin over Gamers2. And I mean, yes, they won yesterday, and yes, they look very strong so far. Well,
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
But there were a lot of comments yesterday about the early game from Origen. How Origen got killed by that dive, Miffy and Soaz died in the very beginning of the game. That hasn't happened this game. Origen have had a much safer, much smarter early game here. They went for the lane swap. It's worked out a lot better in their favor. Soaz has been able to get farm because Jeebus isn't able to zone him away all that much. And honestly, they're reducing a lot of Smitty J's presence in this game as well. Smitty J is now kind of reduced to being that kind of flanking tool here on Kennen as we head into fights. His lane presence really isn't there anymore, and Soaz is in an okay spot here, but it's going to take Soaz a while to get very tanky.
Yeah, it definitely just does feel like the early game is just so much tighter from Origen in this game. They've really just kept control, especially after that. Like, obviously it was that great play early game by Gamers2 in the first game where they managed to get that 4-man dive into bot. Of course, that was only going to work once and Origen would be ahead of the game, but they've just been more active and just more on point. They just look sharper.
Yeah, and you have to feel like a lot of it is contributed by the fact that Amazing is on what is considered to be one of the absolute best junglers on patch 5.2. Of course, on 5.3, Nidalee has been fixed, and so she won't be seen as much, if at all. But at this point, Gamers2 let the Nidalee through. Not sure whether they just weren't expecting Amazing to pick it and whether he played it or not, but it is working out for them. 1-0 already, getting that kill from the Spear, and now looking perhaps for another onto Jeebus in the bottom lane. Spear will not land, so that is not really an opportunity to gank. But look at the damage that Soaz has in this early laning phase of the top lane.
Yeah, decimating smash onto Smitty. He takes the full brunt of that damage as he charges it up. And 0-2 in that lane, it's absolutely fine so far. And he's just building towards a little bit of extra resistance up against that AD. Smitty gone for the early game Doran's Blade as well, kind of going back to that old build that we used to see when we used to see a whole lot of Kennen top lane. We'll go for those double Doran's Blades. We'll see if he does something similar.
Yeah, so the Doran's Blade just gives you a whole lot of laning presence, because even though Kennen is an AP champion, his auto attack still hurt. There was a nerf to Kennen a very, very, very long time ago during Season 4, where they reduced his auto attack damage, and that's what brought Kennen away from being super picked. But the way top lane has been playing out recently is a fair amount of top lane is just a kind of passive in lane, and at that point, if you've got a strong auto attacking champion, especially with range, like, Gilius.
Whoops.
That's not exactly what
Mistakes
they wanted at that point. Mistakes definitely were made.
That's how you donate a buff.
Yeah, a little bit cleaner from Origen there. But yeah, Kennen certainly has a lot of laning presence, is the long and the short of it. Yeah. I just thought I'd tie that up in a neat little bow, but Soaz might be tied up for a bit of a present here because Gilius is heading top. There's the Slicing Maelstrom.
Yep, and it only hits him 3 times, and you can't be disabled anymore. He'll be screaming cowards as he runs away from the fight.
That's a little bit ironic, don't you think?
Yep, that's the point I was making, Strap.
Yeah, well, I know, but I was just... Well, I mean, today's been a funny day, so sometimes things just aren't easy to pick up on. But yeah, certainly not exactly the engage tool that Soaz will be using later. However,
that's for sure.
Xpeke at this point has gone for exactly the same start in the Ahri Lissandra matchup that we saw in the last game. He's gone needlessly large rod first. That's another spear.
Smitty. He looks for the jump. He goes for the flash into the pad, but he's still in tower range. Smitty turns around, hits him in the face with a shuriken. He goes down. Gilius now trying to retreat underneath this turret. He has an escape route. He comes up with the repel, but Smitty, or rather Miffy, is there with the stun. But Soaz doesn't have any more damage to offer. He's completely out of mana. And he runs away. Peke now onto the bot side. Can he close in around Gilius? He's going to try. He does have the ultimate available. How clean can this be? He jumps forwards, gets a stun down onto Miffy. The answer is very clean. Smitty comes into the top lane once again. But that was a kill traded back and forth and back and forth.
Peke says, if you don't let me take the blue buff from Ike in the middle lane, I'm going to take it from you in a gank myself. But honestly, Amazing playing a little bit over-aggressive, and that's a big understatement. He flashed, didn't get the range on the hunted but bottom lane, that's a lot of damage from Niels.
Well, he just gets squirreled, but does he have the damage? That's an angry-looking squirrel. Turns around, he's still tanking the turret, takes another tower shot. He will be jumping away. Big one lands onto the side of Jeebus as he's backing into the bot lane. Ike in the mid lane, though, happily hitting away at the turret. Oh, it's Peke and Amazing. Can I get away? No, maybe not, because he's been tagged up by the on the hunt mark. Or rather, the hunt mark. Peke turns around. Good jump out of that frozen tomb. He was able to get away there.
Yep. Running that cleanse is so important right now against Lissandra. We see it from time to time. We've seen it out of multiple matchups. I don't believe we saw it in the earlier one. Maybe I just missed it.
No, I don't think we did.
In this matchup, the Lissandra Ori, this is going so well again for the Lissandra, which is strange because so many mid laners are saying that Ahri right now is the strongest mid laner almost by far. So, people like Unicorns of Love have been picking Ahri very early on in their rotation, and Ike picked it first in this matchup as well. This was the first pick out of Gamers2, and Xpeke is currently 2-0 with Ike at 0-0 himself.
Yeah, he's lagging behind, and maybe he can get something done, but he's already used his ultimate, he's used the cleanse. At least he has the flash, but he still has the ability to pick people, of course, with the charm, and with Dragon on the horizon. 11 minutes into the game, no one's even looked to try and contest that just yet, but Amazing is around the area alongside Miffy. And Niels is back to base, so he'll be coming back in as well to maybe contest this.
And you have to think that a lot of this mid lane matchup is the fact that Peke has been able to shove the wave in to stop Ike from roaming, at which point Ike just kind of counter shoves and lets Peke roam. And that is a very difficult prospect to deal with because Xpeke has done such a good job of getting himself around the map and actually flash forward from Mithy.
Yeah, tries to jump the glitter lance, wasn't able to successfully do that, but Amazing is coming in from the side. Niels is also closing in and trying to get in on the action. Jeebus has to flash away. Spear comes through, inches away from him.
Look who it is.
And it doesn't matter because Peke comes in from the mid lane. Double kill, one Phosphorus Bomb to OG, right onto Niels.
Again, Peke roams, and Aika was only halfway between the lanes there, and OG are going to look to pick up a Dragon from this. That's another strength that nearly has good damage onto Dragon early game, but you know, Amazing is landing spear after spear. We're only 12 minutes into this game, and that is the 4th spear, I believe, that I've seen Amazing land. They may very well lose a mid turret in exchange for this, but look at Niels already on the way over to clear the wave. The turret is going to stay alive. Good positioning out of Niels. They maybe were looking to go on Mithy, but the Dragon has gone in favor of Origen.
That is true, and Aika did use his ultimate there. Has to use the rest of the charges clearing out these minions, but yeah, he used a big cooldown trying to get Corki right there.
Yeah, this was the flash forward from Mithy, only level 5 in this engage, so didn't have the Tibbers to come out. And you can see Amazing takes a lot of damage, but has the composure enough to not dive onto Heaver at that point, who had the hunted passive. And this is just very cut and dry there. That time a spear didn't quite land. Peke comes in, locks him down, Niels with the Phosphorus Bomb for a double kill.
That is incredibly satisfying, and he'll be very happy. Niels has really turned up in these games following qualifier games. Went huge on Kalista yesterday, is looking to do the same this game, 2-0-1. And when we take a look down at the items, he's looking towards his Trinity Force there. But in the mid lane, Peke is actually opted towards the Abyssal Scepter, which is actually the item build we expect from the Ahri typically.
Yeah, it's one item that we'd expect. So the reason in this game is look at how much magic damage that Gamers2 have on their side. Kennen is going to be dealing primarily magic damage. Elise, Ahri, Lulu, and Ezreal has a fair amount of mixed damage as well. So, I mean, he could rush the Zhonya's that we see, but honestly, just the magic resist alone from this Abyssal Scepter is going to do so much work for Xpeke in this matchup. And, you know, that's the smart itemization. It was more of the build that we were expecting, perhaps, in the previous game where we saw Morella Nomicon on the Lissandra. I feel like this is a way, way better pickup for Peke.
Yeah, I have to agree. And now with the Trinity Force completed by Niels, he is so far ahead. He's hitting that mid-game power spike very, very quickly into this game. I wouldn't even call it mid-game at this stage. We do have Amazing lying in wait, sitting in this bush. Can he be successful this time around? Top lane, he went a little too ham. Maybe he can restrain himself and still pick up a kill.
Yeah, maybe. We'll have to see. Take 2.
Oh.
Is it going?
Got it.
I could get to this time, so that is what they were looking for. Amazing and Mithy have been side by side for most of this game. Well, I praised his spears earlier.
Yeah, he can hit them on champions, but he gets juked by the crab.
Yeah, it's because the crab's not trying to attack him. The crab's just there. Like,
but he only moves in like one line, so you can still predict it. But what Niels did not predict was getting screwed by Heaver. He has to Valkyrie away.
He does indeed. Peke, however, is looking for Aika. He's baiting him forward. Look at this setup here. If Mithy and Amazing were to come around here, awkward area on the charm there, but Aika still wants to go. Peke doesn't have the support of Mithy and Amazing quite yet because they're still dealing with the Raptor camp. Now they're looking to come mid. This is going to be a big mid lane party right now if either jungler decides to go in, but both of them say, you know what? Don't want any of this. I'm just going to head back to the other side of the map.
They're done for now. Dignitas does take the time to put a ward into the opposing jungle. Amazing in the bot side here. Mithy is clearing out the ward. Jeebus comes up to try and contest it. Now Amazing comes in. Has to expend the Radiance Chart buff as well. I mean, Mithy was clearing it out so he wouldn't have to, and he fully engaged.
That's infuriating. That is...
You knew!
You knew! Like, he was waiting not to go over the pink ward so that he didn't show himself. And then he's like, oh man, I lost Razors. I wonder what the timer was on Razors. That's all. I'll maybe give him the benefit of the doubt on that.
Maybe
if it was due to expire anyway. But still, to see that is just like, oh, so disappointing. Using a Razors on a pink one that's already dying.
That seems to be our pet peeve as we enter these games, Grass.
I mean, yeah, it's annoying. What can I say? I mean,
is.
just as a player, it's super annoying.
Clear up your mess. Amazing, please. But Smitty is taking a bunch of damage from Soaz here. Is he going to go all in? He stuns him up with the Mark of the Storm, getting those 3 stacks down. Raw, the Slayer turns the minion into a cannonball. Yeah, hits cannon with it.
There's some wordplay in there somewhere.
Somewhere.
A little bit locked down.
Kind of IKEA'd the point. kind of gave you all the components and you have to build it yourself.
Oh, Peke is trying to build
he's
himself
building
a
up
lead.
a kill. Comes in with the Frozen Tomb, comes across with the Ice Shard, but doesn't land onto Gideon. Smitty now into the fight. There's the Slicing Maelstrom we were expecting from before.
Cowards.
Cowards. This time he's running at them. He lands onto Heaver, though. He'll be taking a bunch of damage from that tower, and he might get taken down here as well. Peke will just have to try and become his meat shield. Gideon's still pushing forwards. Do they pick up the tower? No, they do not.
Oh, Charm has... it's a... Cocoon. Man, I knew I'd screw that one up once. It looks so much... Peke's caught.
Not anymore. Gilead's just follow after him, trying to sink those fangs into the Frost Queen. He just managed to get away, and neither of the middle towers died. They're both still alive. Nils is happily farming the bot lane. Now he's going to the mid lane.
Yeah, 2 towers died in that engage, and Gamers2 are going to look to push in the middle lane in response, but they do have a fairly tanky Soaz there. I don't think he's really enough to defeat them on his own. So Niels comes in from the side, and they will defend that tower. But how has this game got to this point? That is the question. And a lot of it has been riding on amazing spears. And Niels' follow-ups to that. He was one of the players we were looking at coming into this game. He's now 2-0-1. There's been a good few bottom lane ganks as well. He's stayed alive, and they've been doing a good job of putting Jeebus further and further back into this game.
Yeah, he also picked up that very early Trinity Force off the back of picking up those 2 kills from that one Frost Rush bump. That was still an amazing play. But yeah, we'll see what he can do as they head into mid-game.
Yeah, he actually just had 2,000 gold on his person, backs away, picks up a BF sword and a long sword on top of it. So not going for the Blade of the Ruined King build that we've seen out of some Corkis. Typically when you're up against somebody like a Sion, he's obviously playing with Sion in this game, so he doesn't need that extra % damage. This is going to give him a lot more upfront damage, give him a lot of burst potential during fights, so expect Niels to really start hurting people with his Q and with just a couple of autos and rockets. And the reason he's doing this is on the other side, Kennen, not particularly tanky. Neither is Ari or Elise. So honestly, this is, again, itemization in response to the composition of Gamers2.
Oh, flash over the wall. Gideon's just managed to connect the, the Cocoon. Amazing from the bot side, trying to respond with the Ice Shard as well. Miffy comes in from the bot side, just managed to get the stun onto Gideon as he heads on back. Ica turns around. This time, it was actually the charm. Lands onto Miffy as he tries to get the chase down and responds with another Cocoon. It's just Cocoon, Charm, Cocoon, and they can never quite finish anyone up.
I mean, at least they are now the same color, so it doesn't even matter on this skin. Blood Moon Elise is certainly making it difficult to keep track. Although, as we've talked about this before, as long as you avoid both.
Yeah. I mean,
it doesn't matter until it hits, is the difference between the two. But that is a dragon going in favor of Origen. That is their second of the game here. And coincidentally, blue buff should be in favor of Peke.
Come on, Peke.
I mean, they've done this one before. It's all good. It's all good.
Now I'm just paying attention to every blue button.
I know, right? I want to thank our observers for showing us as well.
They're certainly interested.
Hey, I mean, that could be a story of a game. Imagine if that happened more than once. That would be horrible.
Missed it. Soaz doesn't miss the minions as he's still farming away. He's actually in pretty good shape. 147 farm, pretty equal to Kennen. Only a small CS advantage. He's got a bunch of minions heading towards him as well. And Ica trying to take away this blue buff. I believe Ica. Yeah,
he got it this time. And you know what? Talking about Soaz on Sion in that top lane, he's actually currently got 370 bonus health from Soul Furnace. That's a fair amount of health.
Giant spell.
Yeah, that's a whole lot of health. And you know who won't have health? Smitty J.
And Amazing comes in from the right-hand side as well. Can he connect the spear? He just managed to juke it, but that puts him in line of sight of the big scary Sion. He just managed to get the Slicing Maelstrom down, and that's enough stuns to keep him alive. Gilius was also around the corner, just in case they went for the dive, and he was able to respond. Yeah,
good play out by Smitty J. Held his ult until everybody was kind of just under tower, far enough so that they really didn't want to get stunned up. But you have to wonder, Gamers2 are in a lot of pressure on these side lanes. Constantly there's somebody pushing down in the bottom lane, and that's something Soaz was doing a lot yesterday on Morgana, was constantly applying pressure in other lanes. And it's the sign of an experienced team, is you're not just focusing on one point of the matchup. You're like, okay, we know we want to get dragons as our focus or whatever, but we need to make sure that the whole map is in our favor. And it's something that players the caliber of Soaz and Peke have been bringing to these games. Anybody who rewatched yesterday will see that in abundance.
Yeah, now Anchor in this bot lane. Here comes the Glacial Tomb. Comes in with the cleanse once again. Ica able to get away from that. So the ultimates were not even exchanged. Ica holds on to his.
Yeah, but at the same time, the cooldown for Glacial Tomb is so much lower than Cleanse. So it's actually a favorable trade as summoner for ultimate. So it means Peke is going to be able to do exactly the same engage pretty soon. And you can see that actually Peke went for it again and actually used the ult. But mid lane...
Oh, Miffy jumps right into the face of a Cocoon. Great prediction play by Gilius, but it's not going to help his support too much, or even himself. His support will be going down. He'll be quick to follow with the ultimate coming through. That last rocket barrage will take him out. 2-0, another just couple pickups from Origen coming through.
Yeah, another few pickups indeed, but Origen are in full control of this game right now, and they didn't even have that untidy play at the beginning of this one. Going to use Tibbers and so as to soak up a lot of damage from this turret. Charm has landed, but really the follow-up damage is not there for Gamers2 right now. And interesting fact, Gamers2, this is a very different lineup for them. We'll get to that in just a second, because here was this mid lane engage. Mithy lands the stun onto 2. Gilius sticks around to try and pick off Mithy as he was low, and that spear from the side out by Amazing. His spears have just been on point all day today. And okay, we've seen a couple of miss, but you can't hit every spear. But you miss every spear you don't throw.
That's true, Stress, and Soaz
didn't miss the wall.
He did kiss the wall, though. Peke, he may be caught out here. Ica still has his ultimate, but he will respond with his own. Doesn't have cleanse this time around, but it won't matter. Smitty J uses his own. Oh, Missy. Or Miffy. Wow, I can't really pronounce his name today. But he went down, that's for sure. Another 2 kills going over to Gamers2, this time responding on their side. And they'll be trying to push down the bottom lane turret, trying to get some of those objectives back.
Yeah, and really interesting in that engage. Normally you'd think Alessandra with her ultimate in a situation like that might ult herself and then look to flash out. Flash is only just available for Peke, so it wasn't during that fight. And he knew he was dead. So he's like, I've got a fair amount of damage myself, so I'm going to try and pick somebody off. Jeebus looked to be getting out of there safely. So as we're going to see him face plant the wall again, but he got himself away too. And will we see the tail end? That's amazing. Okay, so in this situation, Peke ults him.
Something happened, but
so
more things are happening.
It's fine.
4-0.
Double kill for Amazing at this point. That's a 4-0 at some point. We thought Jeebus was getting away. Hopefully we can see that one again, because honestly, we didn't see it once. So.
Yeah, Jeebus had the case with the GBs there. He got completely knocked out of the fight. I saw like the missile barrage as the transition came in. I was like, oh.
Same as well. I mean,
oh, right out of the way. Soaz will completely overdive, and Ica's still got 2 charges left. Miffy comes in from the top side, will get the stun down. And they will take the bottom turret as well. On top of that, 5 kills in quick succession, a delayed ace, and another turret.
Origen are backing up. Let's take the first look at this. So, this was the start of the engage that we saw. So Jeebus drops super low from this, and Amazing in from the side. Well, that's just cut and dry off a rocket. So from here, how does this fight go? Because honestly, this to me is just Origen being far ahead and Gamers2 pushing up to a turret when they really didn't have enough control of that. That was when we managed to see it again. And Gamers2 are going to do the same again. This time, they know they have a little bit more freedom on the map to do it.
Yeah, they're not going to rinse and repeat, but it does mean that Origen are going to be doing something else on the map, which is pressuring around the Baron area. As your ultimate comes across. They know they're not on it for now, but now they go onto it, and I'm not entirely sure if they have the knowledge that they're doing so.
So yeah, there's a super interesting thing about that, is because it aggroed, or it touched the full health Baron, they're like, yeah, it's probably not on it yet.
Yeah.
And then they just instantly started. So this is dying very quickly. They've got a fair amount of damage at this point. No real chance for Gamers2 to answer back. Oh man.
Here, have the crab.
I was going to say, crab actually, wow, that's... I didn't know that crab normally paths back. I figured he'd just like do that fast run.
Oh, right, yeah. No, he just takes a leisurely stroll back to whatever he was doing. I mean, it's not like he has to be somewhere specifically. He just kind of goes up and down the river, you know?
I wish I had that freedom in my life. I could just wander around.
One day I wish I could be the risk scuttler. Stress 2015.
Well, I mean, it would actually be quite a horrifying experience, but at the same time, Dragon is about to be taken out by Origen. This would be their 3rd of the game, and Gamers2 haven't really stamped any kind of authority on this matchup.
Yeah, this has really just been slipping away from them. They take the Baron, they take the Dragon, now on free, and now in this game, at least compared to the last one that we had between the last matchup, now the timer really is ticking, because Origen, if they start getting towards their 5th dragon, plus the gold advantage they've already accumulated, they're sitting on 9,000 gold advantage. That's almost like the last nail in the coffin. That's almost no way you can come back from that one. So Gamers2 need to start doing something between now and the 5th dragon.
Yeah, that's 12 minutes, so there's a fair amount of
ticking.
time on that one that they've got to do something. Something I've been keeping my eye on, just in general in this game, is Sion's build path, because typically Frozen Heart into like a quad AP comp isn't exactly that great. However, Sion right now has so much health and had the makings of a Warmog that's just been built into a Warmog's armor. He actually just was kind of like, hey, I want cooldown reduction, and I don't want a Spirit Visage yet, so that's what I'm going to get.
So I'm just going to do
again,
it.
Against the cannon, I guess in somewhat of the end of the laning phase is okay. I actually think Soaz could have benefited from some more magic resist, and you can't pull a Fnatic against most of the old Fnatic.
And that's not even a good bush to do it in.
No.
It's just like sitting in their own jungle and just hoping maybe they just happen to walk through there. Not even anywhere close. Gilius is going to be taking the middle ward down, and it's just maybe one of the final pushes coming in from Origen, trying to start taking down some of these inner turrets as
And
well.
you know what? Origen was setting up the rest of the map again. I mean, bot lane's already pushing in. They know somebody has to go down there. Origen head up to the top side of the map to push things in. And for Gamers2 just sitting around in a bush, just not really doing anything at that point, Origen are going to just pressure them out of this game.
Yeah, Gamers2 have to back up very quickly, though, because Jeebus was meanwhile in bottom lane just farming away, and he's not even with the rest of the team. He's going to have to try and get through there. They're already looking for the initiation. Gamers2 actually going for this one. What are they doing? Gilius comes in from the back line. They haven't got anything done just yet. Smitty will go into his Zhonya's, but he's already used his ultimate. But through comes the ultimate now. Jeebus is into the fight, but is it too little too late? Smitty J is already down. Eva will be quick to follow. Amazing will be pouncing onto him and taking him out. Aika will be quick to follow. That's a 4-0. Make that 3-0 so far, but soon to be the case as Gilius is in the way of the decimating smash. Amazing is coming up to mop up another couple kills, and Jeebus is the only one alive. Here's the decimating smash, lines it up, knocks him down. 5-0. Origen are coming in for the kill. They may even just finish off the game off the back of that.
The clean ace for Origen at this point. And this was a far more controlled game from them. They controlled the map from the offset, got the swap that they wanted in this matchup, and really, that was the Origen we've been expecting to see here in Challenger.
Yeah, that is a return to form if I've ever seen one stress. 2-0 in their first week, taking those two best of ones up against Gamers2. And, you know, they were saying themselves, if any team was going to start taking games off them, it would be Gamers2. There was a lot of respect towards those guys, but, well, they didn't.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really put, I wasn't expecting it to be quite so blunt, but yeah, that was exactly the case. I mean, so coming into this game, Gamers2 knew they had a great start yesterday. Origen knew they kind of faltered a bit. Origen assessed a lot of their problems, said, let's tidy up our level 1. Let's fix things there, make sure we get the lane swap we want. Let's not take this lightly. And they did that in this game. Lane swap went in their favor. This time they weren't dived on all too well. Soaz played that a lot better today than he did yesterday, because yesterday he actually teleported in just to die a second time. So this matchup was just so much more controlled, and it was a lot of it was to do with Amazing's early game presence. He landed the spears when he had to in the early game. A lot of damage came out, and Gamers2 couldn't really keep up with him.
Yeah, and it was also the roams from mid lane as well. We saw Xpeke just being in the right places. In the top lane, he was able to gank. Then the bottom lane, Amazing was there. Everyone was just moving between the lanes, and it was just a textbook game, I think, just all over the board from Origen. So they just played it well, and you're right, that's exactly it. Origen, that was the Origen everyone was expecting to see, and they did it against one of, well, expectations coming into this was one of the teams who was going to be their challengers.
Yeah.
And they made short work of them.
Yeah, they did indeed. However, Gamers2, there are still things to take from that. There were bits and pieces of coordination where they were going in on one person getting kills. I feel like Gamers2 came into this one maybe with less expectation today than they did yesterday. I don't know whether that's fair to say, because obviously we're not the players, we're not inside their head, and that's a very difficult thing to kind of look at. But Gamers2 certainly are not out of the runnings yet. They still have a lot more games to play here in this round robin.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things we were talking about during the break stress was like how Gamers2, this is kind of their match between like the #1 competitor, and then like if they can win these games all the way down the line, if they pick up the games like they're supposed to, in theory, like that they should be able to. This is the one that's going to decide whether they take first or second or third or wherever they end up. So that really is, you know, the question. But I mean, Gamers2, they shouldn't be demoralized too much from this because they're playing against the rest of the teams, and they knew from the start this was going to be one of their strongest, or rather hardest matchups heading into the round robin.
That pretty much is exactly the case. Yeah.
Yeah, so anyway, with those 3 games down, we're going to take a look at how those affected the standings. So at the top of the scoreboard, it's LowLandLions White. In fact, all of our games went 2-0 in the very start of our round robin. So LowLandLions, Origen, and Reason all tie for first place, and the Gamers2, Dignitas, and In2 will be trailing behind in week 1.
Yeah, and you know, a lot of people wouldn't be anticipating LowLandLions to be right at the top. Obviously, it's alphabetical for now, just in case anybody's wondering. But obviously, after the first week, a lot of people were expecting a very different result here, and it was some great games today. And honestly, I really enjoyed all of the games, and I'm happy to see LowLandLions doing a lot better. But remember to tune in again next week, where we'll be recapping the action from Tuesday's games and kicking off Wednesday with LowLandLions versus Gamers2.
Indeed, and after that, it's Team Dignitas EU up against N Faculty, and then we'll round off the day with Reason Gaming versus Origen. The action starts all over again at 1800 CET.
And to keep up on all of the standings and everything to do with the Challenger, log on to lolesports.com.
And under the Leagues and Tournaments tab, you'll find scores, schedules, and everything else you need to follow the Challenger Series. But finally, today's League of Legends action isn't even close to being over. Tune in again at 12 AM CET or 3 PM Pacific time for Primetime League.
And after that, Freak and Zyrene are going to be bringing you the first matches of the 2015 North American Challenger Series.
Well, but that's it from us, from myself, Stress, and our entire live broadcast crew. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.